We're through the group stage at Copa America, and guess who is still standing? And the answer isn't the United States or Mexico. It's Canada, as predicted right here on Pinnacle. Gareth Wheeler, Jake Osgathorpe with you. Oh, Canada. Oh, baby. You said you tipped Canada to move on from the group stage. Listen, nothing was straightforward. It never is in this competition anyways. But Canada benefiting from a player sent off for Peru against Chile as well. And they move on scoring just a solitary goal in the group stage, but they played some good football as well. Well done with that prediction, Jake.
Thank you. Yeah, it was more just a value play, to be honest, because I wasn't rating Chile or Peru that highly coming into the tournament. And yeah, just gave them a better chance of progressing than the market. Yeah, the 10 men definitely helped. It made things a little bit easier for them, but fair play. I mean, Jesse Marsh has got them. He's got them playing. Whether they'll be able to progress much further is the question that we're going to answer soon.
Yeah, and let's break down where we stand as 8 teams remain on the one side of the bracket. It's Argentina, who moved on as group winners from Group A. They took on Ecuador, who was upset. They were down to 10 men in their first game. And they lost to Venezuela, who went on to go on and win the group with 3 games, convincingly so. And they take on Canada. On the other side of the bracket, I mean, speaking about a bloodbath, I mean, Colombia, Brazil, we tipped Colombia as a potential play to win the group because the benefit of doing so would be advantageous entering the knockout phase. That's exactly what happened. Colombia outplayed Brazil in a 1-1 draw after going down early. They went on to win the group after Brazil also ended up drawing their first game against Costa Rica of the competition. I mean, their XG was through the roof. Now they have to play without Vinny Jr. as they take on Uruguay, and the upset, the United States are out and Panama in. So it's Panama, Colombia in the other game. Let's go step by step through the 4 games and potentially get into some future bets as well. And let's start off with Canada as they take on Venezuela. How do you handicap this match? Because Canada are a difficult one to project based upon how the group stage played out.
Exactly right. Yeah. Kudos to getting for qualifying, but we have to take it with a bit of a pinch of salt, given the fact that they did play against 10 men against the 2, rivals for qualification. Obviously, Argentina were always going to win the group, but you just can't rely on playing against 10 men every single game, can you? Yeah, and like you said, Venezuela looked very good in their group stage. Granted, it wasn't a super tricky group, but to win all 3 group games for the first time in their history in the Copa America is no mean feat. And yeah, they also play with a bit of a high press. They've got quite a few attacking players that can cause Canada some problems. And they've lost just 3 of the last 19 matches of Venezuela. So they are coming in decent form. And yeah, those defeats as well, is worth noting, did come against Colombia twice and Italy. So decent opponents. So I am looking, sorry, Gareth, but I am looking to get Venezuela on side. I think that's the play. The money line is very tempting at plus 166 for them to win in 90 minutes. But you're offering me minus 124 for a team that I think is the better team. Draw no bet. That's the bet I'm going to take. Money back if it ends in a draw goes the distance, but obviously a winner if Venezuela do get a 4th win at the tournament. So that's not because Canada haven't played well. It's just purely because of the fact that Venezuela have played very well. They've impressed me, and I think Canada are a similar level of opponent to what they've played already.
I'm going to stay away from the results here. Canada lost a key player in Tajon Buchanan, broke his tibia in training on Tuesday. That's a difficult one for the player. You really feel for him in the moment. And he hasn't started the last 2 games for Jesse Marsh, but the Inter Milan player, for me, would have certainly started this game against Venezuela when I think it's a step up in competition based on the 2 teams that they played prior. Canada's played to under 2.5 in 5 of their last 6. This is a considerable surprise because entering this tournament, they had far more questions to answer when it came to their defensive play than their attacking football. But in a game like this, I think it might be a little bit more wide open than typically what you'd see in a quarterfinal match because Canada's strength is really in attack. It's getting a player like Alphonso Davies forward, Jonathan David, Kyle, like getting these players involved. The total set at 2 here. That's too low for me. Over 2 at minus 120. I like that. I also like both teams to score, yes, at plus 102 here. Venezuela's looked very solid in attack, led by Solomon Rondon, who's now playing in the region. He's playing for Pachuca, won a CONCACAF Champions Cup. He's a handful, and there's tricky players to play against. Like the higher quality players in Venezuela, it's a workman-like midfield with some talented players that really connect well in attack. And I think that Canada will have a chance in their game to spread their legs beyond the ball a little bit more rather than playing against makeshift 10-men teams where it kind of doesn't go against, it kind of goes against what the original script states. I think there's another really good play to make if you think that Venezuela can really challenge this Canadian back line. And I think that Canada's back line has been good, but are they this good? I don't think they are yet. Venezuela to score over 1.5 goals at plus 195. I would make at least a half play on this because I think you can get rewarded. I don't know. I just don't think that this will be a typical quarterfinal matchup where it'll be tight and cagey. I think there could be some goals in this one. So pro goal plays for me across the board, and we'll see if Canada can hang. I mean, that they played well against big teams in previous iterations. We'll see what this team can do against Venezuela. The big draw is to potentially play Argentina, the world champs, again. They take on Ecuador. I think that's a bit of a surprise that Ecuador didn't win Group B. So I think it could be a really good game, maybe a lot more cagey. Mind you, good news is Lionel Messi did train yesterday and looks to be on course to play in that quarterfinal tie. It's been said that this is Argentina's tournament to lose. I think there's a lot of truth behind that. But what kind of challenge does Ecuador? Kind of challenge could Argentina face by going up against Ecuador in this game?
Yeah, well, Ecuador have been similar to Venezuela, a very tough nut to crack over the last however many games. They've only lost to Argentina, have beaten them twice in the last 20 matches. And I think that obviously before that defeat to Venezuela, there was only Italy as well that had beaten them. So they are going to be a difficult team to face. However, I just can't look past Argentina. Like you said, it does feel as though it's their competition to lose. Because of the draw and how favourable it is in terms of one side of it. Similar to the Euros, actually. One side of the Copa America is stacked with potential winners, and it does seem as though it's only Argentina from this top half. And just the way in which they're playing and going about their business, it just looks effortless and easy. They're keeping clean sheets, which is absolutely a must if you want to go far in competitions. And I think that's just a way to play it again, to be honest. It's just back Argentina to edge out a 1 or a 2-0 win, keeping Ecuador at arm's length. The last 2 meetings between the pair have been 1-0. They played in Copa America 21, and that was 3-0. Prior to that, it was a 1-0 as well. So Ecuador have only scored against Argentina in one of the last 5 meetings, and the way in which Argentina are defending at the moment, it's really hard to see Ecuador getting on the score sheet. So I think Argentina win to 0 at plus 101. That's where I'll be putting my money.
Yeah, I have Argentina win in under 2.5. It shifted from plus 191 to plus 185. I do think it will be a lot tighter and a lot more cagey. Argentina no losses in 7 to Ecuador. Ecuador no clean sheets in 7, but they played to under 2.5 in 4 of 5. I also like the corners number, and the market has been smashed here. It opened up at over 8 corners at minus 118 or 8.5 corners at plus 108 on Pinnacle. It shifted all the way to over 8 corners at minus 155 to over 8.5 quarters at minus 116. The last time that these two teams played, there were 16 corners in that last matchup. So I think the market is adjusted accordingly based on the way that they play one another. So if you're going to get on that now and try to get that value while it still exists, because I think it's going to be soaked up. Lautaro Martinez, by the way, has scored 4 goals. He's leading the way in this tournament. You can get him to score in this game, anytime goal scorer at plus 120, but I don't know if he starts. And it might be Julian Alvarez, who provides more value if you want a goal scorer at plus 200. Let's go to the other side of the bracket and the big one. It's Uruguay, it's Brazil. The big news heading into this one, well, we haven't seen Brazil at their best, but no Vinny Jr. He is out through suspension. Marcelo Bielsa's side played so well, running through Group C in this competition with 3 consecutive wins. Still, it's Brazil who are favorites, just barely. Brazil at plus 172 to win in 90 minutes. The draw at plus 204. Uruguay to win at plus 192. To advance, Uruguay at minus 116. Brazil at minus 102. And the total is set at 2.25. How do you look at this? Because this isn't a vintage Brazil side, but it's Brazil. After all, Uruguay did beat Brazil in World Cup qualifying last fall. It's a different manager now. Um, so how do you look at this game? I mean, you can never really rule out Brazil, can you? But is this a time where Uruguay are in a position to perhaps spring that upset?
Yeah, I think so. No, Vinicius Junior is a massive blow to Brazil. He is their best player by some way at the moment. And the way in which Uruguay are, well, they really are clicking. Marcelo Bielsa has them playing brilliantly. And yeah, if the draw was a bit kind, I would have been all over backing them to progress far. And I think we did talk about them in our outright as a potential candidate. But yeah, they were going to have to play Brazil at some stage, weren't they? Whether it was this quarterfinal or potentially a semi-final. And yeah, like you said, the record against the good teams has been really, really solid recently. They beat Argentina, they beat Brazil, so they'll fancy the chances. And I do think that they are the bet. I think that the prices are a little bit, well, they're nearly the same price on the money line, but I think Uruguay probably should be slight favourites, especially without Vinicius, because I think he's that important to this Brazil team. I'm just going to play draw no bet Uruguay at a plus number. I mean, to me, that's the most sensible play. I wouldn't be at all surprised if this was a 1-1, goes to extra time, we get our money back. But at the same time, the way in which Uruguay played against Brazil and Argentina recently, there's no reason to think why they can't do an upset. And I just think it's that aggressive pressing style. Argentina and Brazil are teams that are generally built for beating a low block. And they just get surprised sometimes by the intense press from and organised press and the directness with which Uruguay and Colombia play in a similar way, why they've been so successful recently. So, Uruguay on the handicap, plus 102, that is my selection. I will just say, player props aren't up yet. They will be up, I think, on Pinnacle before the game kicks off. Bruno Guimaraes to be carded. He's an absolute foul magnet. He got fouled against Colombia. He got carded against Colombia. I think he committed 4 fouls in that game, and I think that the way in which Uruguay play with that pace and that real back to front manner in which they go, I think he could easily pick up another card here.
Yeah, same bet. Uruguay on the handicap. It's a pick 'em. It's a draw, no bet at plus 102. I just can't make a pro Brazil play with no Vinny Jr. I understand if Endrick who can come in and Rodrigo can shift, or maybe Martinelli can come in, but this is a team where like Andreas Pereira has been coming out there. I don't think this is the strongest Brazilian side that we've ever seen, and they were troubled by the intensity that Colombia brought. If you think that Colombia plays with that intensity, just wait till you see what Uruguay is going to throw at them. So that's the only way that I can go here. It might be foolish not to bet Brazil. I think that public money will still end up coming in on Brazil, so you can maybe even wait on this one a little bit because it is Brazil in the end. But I think that Uruguay is the lean and the way to go here. Finally, it's Colombia. They haven't lost in 26 games. Wild. They take on Panama, who I actually kind of feel bad for Panama because they're being massively disrespected. Because the story in CONCACAF is the United States, Mexico are out. Well, Panama are a decent enough side. And yes, they took full advantage of the Timothy Weah sending off by the U.S. in a 2-1 win. But the U.S. were up in that game, and they still came back and punched back with 2 goals. Colombia, obviously, a significant favorite. I'd be shocked if Panama went to win to advance from this tie. Absolutely shocked because Colombia are that good. Jefferson Lorma is suspended for Colombia in this game, so that will be a miss in the midfield. Is there a bet to be made in this game? I guess I have one to make. Panama's victory was getting out of the group. Mission accomplished. This kind of seems like a freak hit for them here.
Yeah, you're right. They did cause a huge shock by getting out of that group. I don't think anybody expected that to happen. But yeah, it's really difficult to look past Colombia. They've looked really impressive. As you said, they're on a ridiculous unbeaten run. And they've played a lot of good teams in that time as well. And they've also racked up quite a few big wins. Obviously, they beat Spain. They thumped the US. Yeah, it's just how to get them on side is the question. The handicap at -1.5 did tempt me, just because of the kind of like Panama. Trying to say this in a respectful way, they are a team that will play deep and try and frustrate, and they will play in a block against Colombia in particular. And Colombia, that high intense press and that energy that they bring is perfect for playing against that kind of block. So I fully expect Colombia to win this with room to spare. So I am going to take them on the handicap to win by 2 or more goals. I think they've got more than enough to make this very, very comfortable.
Panama have scored in every game in this tournament. I think this is where it comes to an end, and that's how I'm getting on side with Colombia here. Look, they have attacking threats even in games where you don't think that they'll score. That they shouldn't. They outperform their XG. That's what I'm trying to say. But I think against Colombia, it's just going to be too difficult of a test. Colombia are solid at the back, really, really solid. Colombia to win to nil at +101. That's my preferable. That's my favorite play that I can make in this game. So Colombia 2-0 would suit us both, but as
Yeah.
long as they keep Panama to nil here. I'm not sure if anything catches your eye in terms of futures at Copa America as well. Argentina, by far the favorite at +125. Simply put, they don't have to run the gauntlet on the other side. Ecuador, Canada, or Venezuela, that's all that stands in their way. And the feel in North America, I mean, it's not even a typical pro Argentina crowd. It seems like it's a pro Messi crowd. So
Messy.
it's just got a
Yeah.
really different feel about this entire thing. Is there a play, an outright play to win it? That you would make? Like, you can still get Colombia at +550. I don't know whether that's within range, but the fact they play they play Panama, then they play the winner of Brazil and Uruguay. Perhaps that's a number that you're willing to take your chances with.
Out of the three teams there, Brazil, Uruguay, Colombia, they definitely will be the team that I'd be backing at the prices. I mean, they went off just a touch bigger than Uruguay pre-tournament, yet they topped the group with Brazil and have drawn the easiest quarterfinal tie. So I definitely will be looking at Colombia at +550 and thinking that they are the bet at this moment in time, just because obviously anything can happen in football, but you would fully expect them to be in the semi-final, whereas Brazil and Uruguay, one of them is going to go out. But yeah, I said pre-tournament it was boring, but Argentina were the value at, I think it was +200, +250, maybe something like that. And yeah, it's really hard to argue. They've looked so solid. They've looked extremely reliable, and they have shortened ever so slightly to +125. And I probably would still make that a bet. I think I said in the pre-tournament the fact that they have to run the gauntlet on the other side. Well, if it's Colombia or Uruguay that gets to the final, they'll have expended an immense amount of energy anyway, just through their playing style. But because they're having to play such high-level opponents as well, physically, mentally, they will be drained facing an Argentina team that have sauntered to the final if they get there through a very kind draw. So, yeah, my two bets right now, obviously we were on Argentina pre-tournament, but I would definitely add Colombia at that price with the market leaders.
Just really quickly on that, if Argentina faces Brazil, Uruguay, or Colombia in the final, what do you think that number would be? Because that predicates whether you want to make an
Yeah,
outright
for
play
sure.
right now. And I'm not sure if there will be overwhelming favorites against any one of those three teams. Obviously, contingent on suspensions and injuries. I just don't know at +125 if it's even worth making that play right now, Jake.
Well, I mean, personally, I think don't forget we're not going on match odds when it gets to the final. It's to lift the trophy, and they will be a minus number to lift the trophy, whoever they play in the final. So it's up to you whether you want to put a bigger stake on in the final, or whether you want a slightly smaller stake to win the same amount at a plus number with obviously 2 games risk to go. Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but like I said, I'm not going back in because I've already backed them pre-tournament
Yeah,
at a
right.
bigger price than this. But if you were, I definitely would advise getting this now, because you're talking about a team that are extremely short to get past Ecuador and then either Venezuela or Canada. but yeah, it's just a weird way that the tournament is shaped up, isn't it? In the sense that you've
Yeah.
got so many good teams on one side. So yeah, that would be my answer. But I do agree. I think Colombia at this stage are probably where I would go with my money if I was coming at it now.
Anything could happen. We'll see. I mean, Messi's not fully fit. I mean, it's all predicated on him being able to be good to go. I just think it's very cool. We're talking about Canada in the same breath as teams like Argentina and Colombia and Brazil at this point of this tournament. And we'll see if Jesse Marsh, I mean, not known for being a defensive football manager. I mean, if he can get this team going from an attacking perspective, I'm banking they are, then maybe we'll see Canada in a Final Four. We'll see. Fingers crossed. Because I just want my Canada, baby. Want to be able to roll with that as long as we can here over the next little bit. For all of your Copa America markets, go to the best place. Best numbers on market are at Pinnacle. On behalf of Jake, I'm Wheels, and this has been your Copa America Knockout Round Breakdown.